Hi, welcome to GRVO TV, G's Reviews, Views and Opinions. I'm going to do my initial review and thoughts on my new Micro Four Thirds camera. Now, if you see my previous reviews, you will see I'd got myself a Olympus pen EM5, and I love that camera so much. I wanted to keep it, but I wanted a viewfinder. I don't know why I do this. I buy cameras without a viewfinder. I know full well I always want a viewfinder. So the choice was to buy a viewfinder for it, which then it's a big thing stuck on top. It looks a bit ugly and it's quite expensive. And I thought, well, instead of that, I'll sell that. I mean, I'd have liked to have kept it, to be honest, because it's got some really good features. This hasn't. But I thought, well, okay, what I'll do is I'll go for the Olympus OMD EM5, which has the viewfinder built in, but it's still a tiny little camera. So I'll just quickly try and focus on the camera here. So there you go, the Olympus OMD EM5. Obviously, there's this takes me back to my OM10 that I used to have. And the styling is obviously taken from there, and I like the styling. Some people are not keen, but I actually really like the styling. And then you get around the back, and there's like it's like a massive flat screen telly on the back, which is actually awesome. Now, I've seen lots of videos and reviews on this camera, and a lot of people actually slate it for one thing and another. And I just want to cover off some of those negative points, and just. When you're looking at these sort of cameras, just take your mind back to perhaps one of your earlier cameras. And I was looking at the spec for my Olympus C3030 camera, and it had like the ISO capability, for instance, was 200 or 400, and 400 was pretty much unusable. The frames per second was like 1, if that. Your lag between you're hitting the shutter button and taking the photo was probably half a second. You know, it was an opportunity for your subject to be completely out of the frame, and things like that. So just bear those things in mind when you're looking at cameras. And we all want the perfect camera. It doesn't exist at the moment, but you know, someday it might arrive. And I'm a bit disappointed with some of the reviews on this camera, because I think it's fantastic and it's got a bit of bad press because of some very niggly issues. So, first of all, people talk about the screen and say it's quite low res compared to some of the screens and how many dots per inch it is. Well, yeah, it is a little bit, but it's nice and big. Now, I've had plenty of digital cameras, and you know, I do speak from some experience. And for instance, the Sony NEX6 had a gorgeous screen, but it was too small. It was just a tiny little thing. It wasn't touchscreen either, and it's like, why isn't it touchscreen? And this is a beautiful screen. It's lovely. It's easy to use. I don't know if because it's touchscreen it has to be less resolution, but ultimately, you know, it's a beautiful screen. It works well. I've got no issues with it at all. It articulates, and people say, oh, to articulate it up you have to do this first and then this. Well, that's rubbish. No, you don't. Just pull it out from the bottom. It's absolutely fine. You know, there's so many misconceptions about, you know, people, I don't know, very negative. I try and be as positive I can in these reviews. So that is absolutely fine. People say the buttons are a bit squashy. Well, yeah, they are, but you know, it's weather sealed, so there's probably some sort of rubber gasket behind there, and that's why they're a bit spongy. There's two little buttons here at the back, and people say they're awkward to get to. Well, I've got fairly small hands and fingers, and I don't have any problem with those yet. They're a bit spongy, but they work nicely, etc. The actual the grip on the camera at the front here is not very big. It's very similar to the OM10 that I had. If anything, it's got more of a grip, and it's got this lovely thumb piece on the back, which you really grip nicely, and it works fine. And I've seen people put these big grips on, and yeah, they're nice to hold and more comfortable. But then if you're going to buy a camera like this and add a grip on the front and a thing at the bottom and then a battery pack on the bottom, why not just get a bigger camera? If you want a bigger camera, just buy a bigger camera, buy a GH4 and put a grip on it. You know, why the whole point of this is it's small. Now, so don't buy a small camera and then moan because there's nothing to grab hold of. You can hold the lens. You know, it's a nice camera to hold, and no problem at all. Unless you've got massive hands, then don't buy a small camera. So there you go. The controls on top are lovely. You've got 2 dials, front and rear. I've also seen videos that say you can configure these to whatever you want. You can have one as shutter and one as ISO. You can't. As far as I know, if I'm wrong, show me how, but as far as I can see in the menu, you can swap them backwards and forwards and have them as, you can have, like, if say you're in aperture priority, you can have them both doing aperture, or one doing aperture and one doing exposure compensation. It's very limited what you can do. The way I have it set up is that's my aperture control. This is exposure compensation. This button here, which is a function button, I have that to set my ISO, and the one behind it I have to reset the focus point to the center, and that works quite fine for me. There's another function button here. Sorry, no, what do I have that for? Oh no, the record button I use to change the focusing points and things like that. The function 1 button at the back, I use that to reset, that's it, reset the focus, and that all works fine. On the control pad here, the D-pad, you can customize just 2 of the buttons as well, and I have down is white balance, and right goes into single frame, shooting, multiple shooting, timer, whatever, how you want to do it on there. And that setup works really well for me. Obviously you've got your PASM dial over on the side here with your art modes, scene modes, video mode, PASM and intelligent auto mode. That works really nicely. Yeah, it shoots at 9 frames per second, which sounds fantastic when you do it, but in reality it's not auto-focusing and the image stabilization turns off after the first shot. The true speed of this camera, in my opinion, is about 4 frames per second, which is, again, absolutely fine in use. If I just quickly fire it off. Let's go in, first of all, let's do the sequential low. So this is what I use it in. One thing you'll notice is the shutter sound is really quiet and a nice sound. It's like lovely. So that's plenty fast enough for this type of camera. Yeah, if you get a point where you want to shoot 9 frames per second, sounds great. And if you're panning a subject side to side and you've got a lot of depth of field anyway, then yeah, you can use 9 frames a second, that's fine. But you know, I generally have it on single or low, to be fair. But again, that works fine. 16 megapixel sensor, beautiful sensor in these cameras. I think that's about the limit for micro four thirds, and absolutely beautiful images that you get out of this. And the pixel density is good, so you can still crop in if you need to, if that's your bag. Controls wise, again, little things like the door for the SD card is in the side, which is fantastic for when you're doing video and you've got it on a tripod. And see, little things like this I think are just, I don't know if it's just more luck than judgment. Oh, people say the on-off switch, by the way, is a bit naff, but it's a bit fiddly, but it's fine. It could have been there, but you know, it is what it is. A great thing for me is that when you put the tripod mount on, it does not stop you from opening the battery door, so you can still get the battery out without having to take that off all the time. So I can leave that on, it doesn't get in the way of the screen, and it doesn't get in the way of the battery door. And as I say, the SD card, you can come out there. This little door on the side, to get to it you have to open that up, and then it's like a little rubber door, and that's got your HDMI. People say that's a problem. For me it's not, because I never use them. Yes, I would have liked a microphone input. There isn't one, deal with it. It's not a problem for me because I use a different camera for video and I've got sound wired into that. You can buy a thing that goes on top, and you can get a microphone input in it, but it's extra cost and it's too expensive. It's like 100 and something quid for it, which is, you know, if it was 20, 30 quid, we'd all buy one, wouldn't we? And surely they'd make more money, so it can't be expensive. Now, the one and only gripe I have about this, oh, low light, it's insane. You can quite happily shoot up to 6400 ISO on this, and depending on your lighting and conditions and whether you're black and white or colour, blah 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 blah, but it's absolutely fine. You're going to have no issues with that. You can go up to 25,600 and you still get a you know, reasonable image, but you're never going to print it. The one issue I have is this. which is the flash. Now, for me just to quickly pop the flash on, I'll show you what I have to do, okay? First of all, get the flash out of the bag and remove the thing on the bottom of it, little rubber thing. Right, that wasn't easy for a start, so I've got that off, got my flash. Now, I've now got to take off that, off the hot shoe. Then this thing off the back, I've got to slide that on. Locks in position. I've seen a video saying it doesn't lock in, you can knock it off. You can't, it locks in and there's an unlock button to remove it and you have to flip it up and we're ready to go. Now, I know it doesn't take long, but there's 3 bits I've got now, right? So I've now taken a picture. What am I do with them? I'm gonna lose them. So your choices are to leave them off, and the reason they're there, this one is obviously to stop dirt getting into the little points. That one is to stop dirt getting onto the contacts, and this little, it's like a big HDMI sort of input thing. So that mainly is to stop dirt getting onto there. Yeah, this one stops dirt getting into that hole there. The hot shoe one, I suppose you could leave that off. It just looks, you know, in my opinion, it just looks nice. And it stops you catching on your hot shoe when you put it in the bag and things. So it's nicer to have these things. Now, what camera did I have? Can't remember what it was. I think it was me GX1. That and this was sort of one piece, which was better. So you just one thing off there, and put it on. And that was a better system. So that's my only gripe. I mean, you know, and let's face it, if that's the only gripe we've got about a camera, it's not doing too bad, really. But, you know, that's just a bit of a hassle for me. So, so this is just my initial review. I haven't had it long, but I can't think of any issues really with it. It's fast autofocus, very fast, like all the Micro Four Thirds cameras I've had from Panasonic and Olympus have all been really quick. I mean, I had the Sony NEX6 and my mind was to get into that system, but the lens, the long lens for it was crap. The 55 to 200, the autofocus was just so slow, it was virtually unusable, and it was a big massive tube on the front. They just didn't get that right, and I know it had the bigger sensor, which, you know, if they'd had this whole system with the bigger sensor, it would have been even better. But then your lenses get bigger and your lenses get heavier, and you end up with like the Sony A7 is a prime example of, you know, they've crammed it all into a small body, but then you have to put dirty great lenses on it, whereas this system for me just fits perfectly. And this camera, as my sort of number 2 backup camera, small camera, carry around camera, whatever you want to call it, is absolutely fantastic. No, it doesn't fit in my pocket, but then, you know, you get yourself a nice little trendy man bag, little leather one like that, and it's fine. I can carry this couple of lenses around with me all day long, and it's just a fantastic experience when you're not having to carry big heavy digital like Nikons and things around with you. It's lovely to have a little camera like this and a system, and I've really bought into this system now. I've got the GH4, the GH3, and now the EM5, and it's just wonderful, and I just love the look of it. I think it's retro, it's nice, and really nice tactile thing to use. Lens wise, I didn't buy the kit lens because it's too long and I thought that defeats the object, and it was a f4 to 6 or 3.5 to 6.3 or something, which I know people say it's a really nice good lens and it's weather sealed, yada yada, but it wasn't for me. Essentially, I'm going to have the 45-1.8 on there pretty much all the time, and I'm also going to get, it's a toss up between the 12 and the 17mm f1.8, and I've also ordered a 25 f1.4 cinema lens as well, just for a bit of fun, and that'll all go in the bag, and it still weighs bloody nothing, so, you know. So there you go, my initial thoughts, and I will do some more reviews and put some more pictures up as time goes on, and I'll do sort of a review at a later date on how I'm getting on with this, and to let you know, if I've fallen in love more or out of love, but I'm pretty settled now on my GH4, GH3, and the GH3 technically is my other half's, but don't tell her. She won't watch the video. Don't tell her I said that, but you know, GH4, GH3 and this as my camera set, and all my lenses fit all my cameras, and it's just a fantastic system, and I'm loving it, loving it, loving it. Anyway, this is GRVO TV, G's Reviews, Views and blah, 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 blah. This has been GRVO TV, G's Reviews, Views and Opinions. I'll see you soon. Bye.